So the first thing you start with on your high tunnel is getting your building platform ready. Just get your walls roughly measured out on where it's going to sit. Kind of get your ground just kind of leveled down a little. Take out any large mounds or dips or anything. Get it all kind of smoothed out. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't really matter so much on this kind of a thing. And so you can kind of get it leveled out more as you continue working, but just kind of get a rough estimate on where it's all going to be. And then we're going to start here on the first post, and I'll show you on how you can go ahead and get the rest of your walls squared up and make sure your building's going to sit square in the way you want it so all your measurements come out right. Your hole, go ahead and clear the dirt away from the sides of it so that way you know how deep you are for ground level. Makes it a little easier to measure it. And I auger my holes about 6 to 8 inches shallow. That way I can go ahead and drive the post in the rest of the way, and it holds it solid while I put in the fly ash around the bottom. You also call it post set. It's not quite like concrete. It sets up really hard though, works really well. A lot of ranchers use it for setting corner posts. It doesn't cost as much as concrete. And it's a lot easier to work with. You just dump it in the hole, add some water, stir it up, stick your post in. And so it's much more simplistic, no cleanup or anything like that. Also, if you're not going to be augering your holes, you can just drive your post straight in the ground. We have a lot of rock out here, so I like to auger the hole first so I know what I'm going to get into. So if there's a big rock down there, I can chip it out with a rock bar or something. And other than that, just go ahead and set your post in the middle here. You're supposed to go 32 inches deep. This hole's about 26 right now, I think, something around there. And when you order your high tunnel, Zimmerman's gives you a post driver. And it's just a milled piece of steel that'll go into your post so it doesn't smash the end. And works really well. I think there's companies also that offer them. You can just order them too, just in case you're building your own from scratch or something. Put that on there. Alright, make sure your hole is plumb, your post. That's about one of your most important things. You want to make sure they're always plumb. Otherwise you'll end up, if you get one that's off, then when you put on your hip and baseboards later, it's not going to line up. Either it's going to want to push your baseboard out, or you're going to have a big gap between your post and the baseboard. Hip boards are even worse, and it just makes it a real pain later on down the road. You'll thank yourself if you get them all right here. A little, just give them a little bit of nudge each direction, and we'll continue checking this the entire time as we're packing them and putting in the post set and everything. Now these are 80-pound bags, and so I'm going to dump half a bag in on each post. You want to be careful not to get any of that in your eyes or to breathe too much of it, because it really is just rock dust. It's pretty mean stuff. And you add about, I don't know, a quart, half gallon of water. Just kind of guess. About like that, and we'll start there. And then let me grab my rod. I used to stir it. Just stir it with whatever fits in there. I just got an old sucker rod. This will solid up into a nice heavy clump on the bottom of your post. And now keep that post from wanting to pull out once your ground's packed on top of it. It kind of makes a foot on the bottom of your post. It'll also help keep your post from ever settling more too. Grab a shovel, and as you backfill, put in just part of your dirt, about, I don't know, 5 or 6 inches, maybe halfway up the rest of the hole. And then use something to tamp it down from there. And a small rod's like this nice because you can really poke it down into the, make sure there's no air pockets and stuff. Once you get partially in there, And another thing I like to use is just my sledgehammer. Just hold it like that and just tamp it in there. After you kind of get it just lightly tamped, not real hard, grab your level, make sure you're plumb again. You want to get it relatively accurate, but I mean, it doesn't have to be just super accurate here. And also, that's one thing over setting in concrete is later on you can always nudge them more as you're putting your hoops together. All right, now we're going to measure out on where all of the next posts will go down the row. Now this depends on your high tunnel, on whether you're going with a 4 foot, a 5 foot, or 6 foot spacing on your hoops. Those are the kind of three most common distances of hoop spacing. I'm sure there's other distances out there depending on just what you're building. And so what you do is you go ahead and come back to your first post and then stick a stake, or I'm using an electric rod post, in next to it. That way you can hook your tape measure at the center of your first post. So that way you're starting at center. Now, from there you're going to go ahead and string your tape measure all the way down to the end post that we just finished putting in. And then since mine's 5 foot, then I put a stake at the 5 foot mark. Then I put one at the 10, 15, 20, and then so on. And you'll do the same thing according on what your hoop spacing is. Now, once you get all that done, you pull your tape measure up, auger all your holes, and then once all the holes are augered, then you can put back down the tape measure, and you can get all your posts put in, and you're going to want to check and make sure all your posts are on center with what their measurement is supposed to be. So now we're ready to start on the other wall, and in order to do that, first we have to get the end wall straightened out. We got to make sure this building's all going to sit square. And the easiest way to do that is using a 30, 40, 50 method. What you're going to do is you're going to measure, this is for the 30 foot wide high tunnel or building. You're going to measure 30 feet down for the end wall, and then measure 40 feet up your side wall. And now when you go from the 40 foot mark to the 30 foot mark, it equals 50 feet. Now when you have a 50 foot measurement between those two, then you're square. Alright, now I'm going to string out 30 foot of rope for the end wall. I use rope instead of a string line because string line stretches a little bit too much and it might get your measurement off. So you're going to want to use a small rope. Alright, so now I'm going to measure from the 40 foot mark to the 30 foot mark and see if we're square. If it's square, it's at 50 feet. Alright, this shows the end wall at 54 feet, so I need to bring this corner in. Alright, that's 50 feet there. And you may want to recheck your measurements a couple of times just to make sure you have it right. Alright, we got our hole augered here on this corner. And now once you get your post in, you're going to want to check it again and make sure it's square because your post can move a little bit within that augering space. If you're driving straight into the ground, then you probably don't have to worry about this. So we're gonna go ahead and check it again. At the same mark up the sidewall that we did before, and we're at 50 feet, so we're still good and square. Now, next I wanna make sure that the height of this post is the same as the height of the post over here on the other wall, because we wanna make sure that's the same from one side to the other. We don't want it to be lower on one side. And the easiest way to do that is I'm going to use this transit. You can either buy some lower end consumer ones, or you can rent these too. And there's other ways to make sure this is level, but this is one of the easiest ways since I have a transit. So what we're going to do is, I'll aim the transit over here at the first wall. This is what I'm going off of. And then I'll measure down with a tape measure and mark what that measurement is of this post with the transit. Then I'll go over to the other post of the transit and we'll drive it down until we hit the same measurement mark. There's other videos and how-tos online. I'm sure you can find it, give you a better explanation on how to do leveling like this. But this has worked well for me. It worked really well in the last building we did. So we're going to get started on that. All right, so I'm going to hang the tape measure off the post like that. And then I'll just aim the transit at it and get the measurement off the tape measure, and then I'll go to the other side. Measuring it 6 inches and 5/8 down. I move my tape measure to the other post. That one's measuring at 11.5 inches. So all I gotta do then is drive this post down until this measurement matches the other post. And that's all you gotta do to get them right. And your measurement will be different than mine according to the height of your transit and how deep you're setting your post for the sidewalls on your high tunnel. So just do that process, and then you'll do the same thing at the other end. All right, here's the last corner, and what we're going to do here is we just measure 70 feet from the last corner we just did. We're going to measure 30 feet over from the corner that's next to it, and that'll give us a square corner, because since that's square, this should be too. So just make sure you're 30 across and then 70 on your length, and you should be fine. Once we get the post set, then we'll go ahead and check our height with the other corner that we started on, the same way we did at the other end, so that way we can go ahead and get the height the same. We're going to want to use transit or something like that, just like we did before.